People everywhere are starting to listen to him. He's going on French, British, Italian, Japanese television.
This is the Wide World of Weingarten.
Wide World of Weingarten. It is Monday, 12:30. I think it is April. Nope, it's May. I'm going to start that again. 3, 2, 1. Wide World of Weingarten. Monday, May 16th, 12:30 here in Los Angeles. Pretty enjoyable weekend of NBA and NHL action, actually. Unless you're a fan of overs or a fan of the Phoenix Suns, you probably did not have a wonderful Sunday. Otherwise, I thought the NBA and NHL Game 7s really delivered this weekend, especially the Celtics and the Kings under. Was enjoyable. The baseball card, more or less, was as exciting as it always is. A lot of stuff happened. But this week, got some more NHL and NBA playoffs. Not much for me to talk about. That's not my my area of expertise. It is the PGA Championship this week. I haven't been betting a ton of golf lately. I might make a future bet or two the last couple weeks. Maybe I'll pick something off live. But hasn't really been my focus with baseball, trying to get baseball up and running the last couple weeks. I've kind of been preoccupied with that mostly. But the nice thing about golf, for professional golfers and for golf betting, is you can always skip tournaments. You can always skip weeks. The better pro players don't necessarily play a full schedule. A lot of guys who are grinding to stay on tour do. But the nice thing about golf is you can always skip a week or two or a month, and it's always there when you come back. So it's still here, and I'm back for the PGA Championship. This year, the PGA Championship is in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Southern Hills Country Club. The event was moved here after originally being scheduled to be played at Trump National Golf Course in Bedminster, New Jersey. But after Donald Trump tried to overthrow the U.S. government, this event was stripped from his property because the PGA thought it would be bad to be associated with him. And it's kind of funny if you think about it. The largest actual punishment that's actually been handed down to Trump, and I'm sure the one that has affected him the most as well, is losing hosting a golf major at one of his courses. He really loves golf, and it's just kind of funny. The biggest repercussion for his attempt to overthrow the U.S. government is losing a golf tournament so far. So weird how that works, but I'm sure he actually did wish this was being played at his course this week. Instead, it's played at Southern Hills. And, last year, if you look, Phil Mickelson was 200-1, I think, when he teed off to win. So I started looking at the guys 200-1 or higher to start, see if there's anyone I was particularly interested in. Only found two guys that stood out for long shot outrights. That's Lucas Herbert at 300-1, recent winner on the PGA Tour, and perennial favorite of mine who has yet to make it over to the PGA Tour. Just lost out on Q School. I think he was like the first guy out last time he was doing qualifying for PGA or whatever it was a couple years ago now. I don't recall exactly, but Justin Harding, favorite of mine on the Euro Tour, 400-1. He did finish third, I think, in the Masters a couple years ago too. I like Justin Harding, 400-1. I'll probably play that. And then an actual bet I think is interesting is Alex Checa. He's a senior tour player. He's a guy I'm interested in the top 10, top 20, top 40 market. You can get 65-1 on him on the top 10, 35 top 20, 8-1 on the top 40. Pinnacle's not even open yet, so there's still plenty of places that will open up with competing numbers. Those are the numbers from DraftKings, but he won the 2021 Senior PGA Championship, which gained him entry to this event as the reigning Senior PGA Champion. But the 2021 Senior PGA Championship was also played at Southern Hills, and he won, shot up -8. I don't necessarily expect him to contend at the PGA Championship, but a guy with good course experience, and recent winner on this course could easily sneak into the top 40, top 20. 65 to 1 for a top 10 is an enormous price. Don't necessarily expect him to be that competitive, but big numbers get my attention, so probably going to bet those later this week. Like I mentioned, this is at Southern Hills Country Club in Tulsa. Looks like it's a pretty fun course to play. The food prices I saw were a little insane. $19 for a beer or $16 for a beer or something. Good luck with that if you're going. We'll have some more matchups and lower odds sort of bets later this week. I just wanted to get some of the long shot stuff out of the way. I like to do the long shot stuff first early in the week before the markets necessarily firm up, and then you could get more money off on a lower favorite. But 400 to 1 and 300 to 1, I'm usually only looking to get $100 or $200, maybe $500 max if I was really going crazy on these kind of long shots. So could really wait for the markets to firm up later in the week for larger bets. On to Major League Baseball. Jacob deGrom is getting an MRI today. If he receives good news, he could start ramping up, and that would mean an early June return at this point, which is also about the latest he can return and factor into the Cy Young race. I'm waiting, hopefully get good news there. If you haven't picked off 100 to 1 and you want to long shot a guy who can force his name into the conversation, even pitching half as many innings or 60% of the workload of some of these other guys, it would be deGrom. I've talked about him a lot. Over in the American League, the Angels are currently 24-13. They are tied for first in the AL West with the Astros. A healthy Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani and Taylor Ward are leading the way, as are their aggressively developing pitchers. The Angels' entire last draft class was all pitchers. I think like 19, 20 pitchers. So Manassian, the general manager, understands what he needs to do, and that he needs to go out and draft 20 pitchers and hope that 2 or 3 or 5 of them become major league arms every year, because they need an influx of pitching talent to put around their major Trout, Ohtani core. So you see guys like Reed Detmer and Chase Silseth, who was an 11th round pick out of Arizona last year. He's up and in the rotation, probably gets another start. But the Angels are aggressively trying to develop pitching to go along with Trout and Ohtani, and they're currently on pace for over 100 wins. Large part due to the current outfielder who is leading MLB in weighted on-base average, batting average, OBP, slugging, and WRC plus over the last 3 weeks. You would think I'm talking about Mike Trout, but I'm not. I'm talking about Taylor Ward, who, I don't know what else he could do to deserve an invite to the All-Star game. He's been probably the most surprising player of the season for me, for probably everybody. I absolutely did not have Taylor Ward breakout on my bingo card, and he's one of the big reasons why the Angels are doing what they're doing and are projected to make the playoffs. Not necessarily projected to win the division, but 24-13, they are currently favored to make the playoffs last time I checked. Pretty impressive stuff. There's a lot to talk about MVP-wise, not going to get into that yet, but the NL MVP race, the F-WAR leaders, Fangraphs WAR. Manny Machado still leads the way, 2.8. Arenado second, 2.2. Brandon Nimmo and Jazz Chisholm, 1.7 and 1.6. I don't think either are going to be factors in the MVP race. You're going to say, well, what about Jazz Chisholm? He could factor into the MVP race. He is good. Yeah, maybe in a year or two. Not on a third or fourth place team. It's the same division as Ronald Acuna and Austin Riley and Bryce Harper and whoever's on the Mets, Peter Alonso, Max Scherzer, etc., etc. I'd be absolutely booking Chisholm. That seems down to like 30 to 1. I'd double that number, potentially triple that number. I'd love to write more bets on Jazz Chisholm. Another guy in there at the WAR leaders, I think tied for fourth with Chisholm, is Bryce Harper, who is currently mostly, or actually only playing DH because he has a slight tear in his UCL. But if he continues to put up the numbers he's putting up, he'll likely be in the conversation the rest of the season for MVP. Juan Soto obviously up there as well. At the moment, my biggest MVP positions in the National League are Machado, Harper, and Mookie Betts. I actually think I have more on Betts than Harper, but I have far more on Machado than both of those. Betts currently leads the Dodgers in home runs, probably remains their best overall shot of winning another MVP. I don't think Trey Turner and Freddie Freeman would necessarily agree with me, but that's how I see it. And then there's Ronald Acuna. He didn't play on Sunday after injuring his groin this weekend. I think it was groin or leg. I'm not actually sure, but the MRI didn't show any structural damage. So we'll see if he's in the lineup today or if he needs a trip to the injured list. I do think his MVP window is still open, but not at 10-1. I think if I was booking it, I would flip Betts. Betts is 20-1. Acuna is 10-1. I'd flip those numbers. I'd be happy to write more bets on Acuna, similar to Jazz Chisholm. I don't necessarily think this is going to be his year. Now, as far as the AL MVP is concerned, the MLB leader the last 3 weeks, like I said, in every meaningful category from ISO to weighted on base, batting average, OBP, slugging, WRC plus, etc., is Taylor Ward, who is not going to win the AL MVP no matter what he likely does. It is pretty crazy, though, to really see those numbers on paper. 2 more home runs for Ohtani this weekend. He's scheduled to pitch against the Rangers on Wednesday. Mike Trout is clearly his main competition at the moment. They're teammates. Definitely going to be some interesting conversations. I'm sure sports media and betting media will be all over this discussion for the next couple months, one way or the other. I have not yet decided that I need to bet on Mike Trout to hedge my Ohtani positions, although I'll always consider ways I can lose. At the moment, I'm not interested in making a bet that would cut into my Ohtani odds, Ohtani return potentially. Aaron Judge, really also he's a contender as well. Hard to see him necessarily winning compared to Trout or either of them to Ohtani. And Byron Buxton obviously still in the picture, but he's just not going to get the attention in Miami that Judge is going to get or Ohtani and Trout are going to get, provided they're all doing well. Buxton's just not going to really be in the actual voting conversation. The National League Cy Young got shaken up a little bit on Sunday night. Carlos Rodon got smacked around by the Cardinals on Sunday Night Baseball. So I'm really starting to get the impression that there actually is a different baseball for nationally televised games. Rodon went 3.2 innings, gave up 10 hits, 8 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, all season highs or lows for him, raised his ERA to 3.49 and dropped him back significantly in the Cy Young race. It's really going to take a month of elite starts to bounce back from a 10-hit, 8 earned run game, and for Rodon, it's likely has to be his worst start of the season to remain in serious contention. Looking at the DraftKings Cy Young odds this morning, I saw Pablo Lopez is 13-1, Rodon is 7-1. I would flip those numbers if I was booking it. I think Lopez at 13-1, as high as 15-1 at FanDuel. I think those are nice plays. Walker Buehler 16-1 at BetMGM. I like that better than Rodon at 7-1. I think it would not surprise me at all to see Rodon drift out to 20-1 or higher sooner than later, especially with Burns and Scherzer still being the front runners, and Pablo Lopez. He is very much in contention at the moment. I don't necessarily think he's going to stay in contention all season. I don't know if he's as good as his numbers indicate, but a 1.10 ERA after 40 whatever innings he's pitched definitely deserves a slightly lower number than the 15-1 he's getting at FanDuel, 13-1 at DraftKings. Yeah, I would have cut that number already if I was booking it myself. The American League Rookie of the Year, I think after watching George Kirby this weekend, I could say unfortunately he is likely, as he always was, dead money. If you grabbed him at 150-1 or 85-1, congratulations. I mean, it's good practice to, make bets like that, but it's not because I think he's a bad pitcher or anything. I just think he's been over-adjusted odds-wise, and like 25-1, there's no value there, especially when he's competing against his own teammate, Julio Rodriguez. Practically a non-starter. He's not better than Joe Ryan at the moment, and what's his name? The other guy, who I'm all of a sudden blanking on, the third pitcher, who's in the American League. Oh, Reed Detmers, yeah, threw a no-hitter. He's not better than Reed Detmers or Joe Ryan at the moment. So I just think it's dead money. Julio Rodriguez, though, he had his second home run of the season Sunday against the Mets. 114 mile an hour exit velocity, was the highest exit velocity in all of MLB on Sunday. To go along with his 10 stolen bases, he's the MLB leader. I don't see how he's not the front runner. I've seen some discussion about Jeremy Pena, Joe Ryan, obviously worthy competition, what he's doing as a pitcher, but I don't see how it's particularly close. I don't think Pena is going to get more votes than Julio Rodriguez if things keep going the way they are. Julio Rodriguez joins Ken Griffey Jr. and Alex Rodriguez as the only Mariners players under 21 to reach base 5 times in a game. So another impressive comparison for Julio Rodriguez. Bobby Witt Jr., he had 2 home runs this weekend at Coors Field. Maybe he just needed a trip to Coors to jumpstart his season. He looked a little lost at the plate at times this year. I don't think he would necessarily benefit from shuttling back and forth to Omaha and extended time at AAA. So, again, he's one of those guys where the development's going to need to come at the major league level. And it'll come. I mean, you could see the bat speed is there, the contact. He's an elite future superstar. He just needs time to develop. Might not win Rookie of the Year, but he should not be sent down to AAA. I think this trip to Coors probably settled that. Value-wise, Tristan Casas, 60-1 for the Boston Red Sox. Still a pretty interesting bet. He has not been called up yet. Should be up, imminently, as I like to say. He's going to play first base, DH, power hitter. See Spencer Torkelson kind of flailing around out there. He's 11-1, finally hit double digits. I think Casas is a better value bet-wise at 60-1. They're similar player profiles, both playing on bad teams right now. I think the Red Sox likely to get better than the Tigers. In the National League, Seiya Suzuki still isn't doing anything to justify being an odds-on favorite so early. Mackenzie Gore is 4-1 for the Padres. His start is being skipped this week, not for any performance-related issues, but just because the Padres need to sort of stretch his innings limit here. Like I said, I projected him for like 140 innings or something this year. They're going to need to do stuff like this consistently during the first half of the season if they want to get some of these innings and meaningful games in August, September, and potentially the playoffs. So, I think Gore is a candidate, but 4-1's not getting my attention. I think there's some serious other value. Like Juan Yepez, for example, the 24-year-old first baseman who was just called up by the Cardinals. I remember him when he was in the Braves system, but he's always going to have a strikeout to walk rate around 4-1 or 3-1 if he's really lucky. And he might stay hot for another week, maybe 2, but I think the league will eventually catch up to him, learn how to pitch to him. He's the kind of guy where I'm like, well, if he beats me, fine, but I'm not betting on him. I think zero value on him at 10-1 or 15-1, whatever numbers are out there. He reminds me of Yerman Mercedes last year, where he just kind of, a couple hot weeks gets a guy in the pool and they don't know what to do with him. I'd much rather bet O'Neal Cruz, who's 30-1, drifted all the way out to 30-1 at Canby. I don't know how they got that number, especially when you consider in his last 2 AAA games in Indianapolis, Cruz has exit velocities of 114, 116, and 121.7 miles per hour. 121.7 miles an hour is an insane exit velocity. I think Giancarlo Stanton's the only player in the major leagues in all of baseball who has the ability to hit a ball that hard. So, as I've said before, I consider Oneil Cruz this unicorn-style prospect because he's 6'7", and he does some real crazy stuff. So 30-1 it can be. Gonna grab some of that today if I can. I think that's a fantastic number. There's 25-1s out there, also a good number. All those numbers are way too high considering Suzuki over the last 15 days. He's 7 for 33 with 1 run, 0 home runs, 2 RBIs, 3 walks, and a 278 OBP. That's not remotely close to the numbers you'd expect from an odds-on favorite in one of these markets in early May. This is this sort of reminds me a similar situation I think would be 2019 when the AL Rookie of the Year market had Vlad as like a minus 200 favorite early in the season, even before he got called up, basically for no reason. But sometimes in these markets, when you have a clearly mispriced favorite, it creates value all over the market. Because if the favorite is just massively priced wrong, then everybody else should theoretically have some value, and then you get into it's a yes market, it's a one-way market, not a yes-no market, and they're just lending out the liability. Yes, I've been into all these arguments before. I totally understand, and there's a hold. There's actually a pretty decent hold you have to beat, but some of these markets you just. If you're willing to, make your own numbers and you think that Suzuki is overpriced and Juan Yepes is overpriced and Mackenzie Gore is overpriced, which I do, I think all three of these guys are totally overpriced to what they're projected to do the rest of the season, then there's absolutely value all over the back end of this market, especially Oneil Cruz 30-1. Pirates won't be good, but Oneil Cruz will be must watch every at-bat he gets when he finally does get called up. Another long shot prospect I talked about last week is currently, I think, 200-1, high of 200-1, between 100-1, 200-1. Dodgers pitcher Bobby Miller, he's a Double-A Tulsa. Outdueled Jack Leiter this weekend. The Tulsa Drillers, the Dodgers Double-A affiliate, handed Leiter his worst loss of his pro career. Drillers knocked Leiter out in the second inning. He gave up 6 earned runs. He'll bounce back. It just, growing pains happens when you face the Dodgers, prospects that they happen to be pretty good. Bobby Miller, on the other hand, he gave up no earned runs, 3 hits over 5 innings, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. With the Dodgers pitching depth issues this year, he's probably going to get major league innings sooner than later. I was making the argument he probably should have been called up to start Sunday, but the Dodgers obviously have a plan and will stick to it. But again, it wouldn't surprise me if he's up sooner than later because the Dodgers have, 25 games in the next 25 days or whatever, and they just don't have the pitching depth right now for a bunch of various different reasons. Hunter Green, another prospect. I think I got Hunter Green and one more guy to talk about, but Hunter Green continues to bounce back. He threw 6.1 innings of no-hit baseball against the Pirates. The Reds lost 1-0 in a game where they didn't give up a hit on Sunday. It was technically not a no-hitter because they didn't play the bottom of the 9th inning, but the Reds continue to stay pathetic. Green he's been one of the few bright spots for the Reds, though. He actually threw more sliders than fastballs. He had a 66% strike rate on his slider on Sunday, so he was doing a much better job locating pitches. If Hunter Green just has to rely on his fastball to get major league hitters out, he's going to be in trouble. But when he can get a good pitch mix going and locate his slider, he's going to make guys look silly. And that's the thing is, you just, even at the major league level, when you throw 101 miles an hour, you can't just rely on your fastball to get guys out. If all you throw is a fastball, guys know it's coming, and they will eventually learn to tee off on your velocity. But it does make good Twitter content talk about how hard he's throwing. Green threw 118 pitches, which was also impressive. It was one of the higher pitch counts of the season. You could do that when you're throwing a lot of fastballs. He had 9 strikeouts. Definitely something to keep in mind. I've talked about it on Twitter with the prop builder. If you have access to that, the alt strikeout numbers for Hunter Green. If we know he's going to be throwing 100, 118, 120 pitches to start, he has very high quality strikeout stuff. I mean, you can constantly be able to get good odds on 8, 9, 10 plus strikeouts, and he will hit those numbers. Unfortunately, he still has a 6.21 ERA, so it's hard to see him factoring into the Rookie of the Year race, especially with the way the Reds are playing. So if you were really inclined to bet a 40-1, I saw a 50-1 stray number. I think it was Fox Bet, which is one of those books that I don't have the ability to bet at, and if I did, they'd probably let me bet $6. So I don't mention them very often. I just see the odds on my screen. But 40-1s, some 50-1s out there. If it drifts a little higher than that, maybe it's worth a small flyer, but really not interested in Hunter Green, unfortunately. Well, I do think he has potential future ace in him. The Reds still haven't hit double-digit wins through 35 games. They're currently 9-26. I just don't see Hunter Green getting the innings and the numbers he needs to seriously be a Rookie of the Year contender with some of these other guys coming up. And speaking of guys who are coming up, Mickey Moniak, he was killing it in spring training, fractured his hamate bone. He should be starting a rehab assignment soon. There is an issue that potentially they can leave him in AAA for up to 20 days on that rehab assignment. But when he does come up, he could get at-bats in the Phillies outfield, and he is as high as 130-1. Like I said, the NL field, the NL Rookie of the Year field is kind of totally mispriced with a favorite that's way overpriced. Shouldn't be an odds-on favorite, so there's all sorts of potential value out there. If you're willing to make your own basket, you can pick 5 guys at pretty big numbers and sort of make your own field if you want to look at it that way. But yeah, those are my awards updates for today. Then I got some bets for Monday. The first being the A's Twins first inning yes score plus 115 or better. I've seen it as high as plus 130 already. I bet it at plus 130. I think that's a great number. I bet the Rockies plus 135. I bet the Mariners plus 143. Those are my 2 favorite sides for Monday. That's my favorite first inning. And then I mentioned those Alex Checa top 10, 20, 40, the PGA Championship, because he won the senior championship there last year. I think those are just good numbers for a couple long shot golf bets to get the week started. But that's my report for today. Thank you for listening as always.